start later, you're going to have to still get the time in. This talk is going to be in English, and that's because I don't speak really any Spanish. So trust me, it's better if you do it in English today. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm Carsten. I'm the CEO of eDreams. eDreams is a large travel company, but also a large technology company. And we're actually based in Barcelona, so we have a sizable team. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this. I'm going to talk to you about how Agile and the architecture, processes, people fit together in one picture, because it's really, I think, three sides of the same thing that you really cannot separate. And I'll talk a little bit about our journey when we took from a monolith to a more nimble, more agile organization. So let's get started. If you have any questions, you can do it in an interactive way. I know it's a little bit like a cinema here, but I appreciate if there's some conversation happening as well. Interesting talk. Let me just introduce eDreams real quick to get started. We're a travel company among the largest online travel companies in the world, actually, based on flights. We operate 5 major consumer brands, and probably if you're from Spain, and I think that's the majority of the people here, you probably know eDreams best. That's our brand that's number 1 in Spain. But we have many other brands that are number 1, number 2 across Europe. Photo, Traveling, Voyage, and Odigeo. We're actually operating 261 websites. We have 18 million customers traveling with us every year. And we power the completely amazing and disturbing number of 1.7 billion searches every month. So that's quite some numbers. We do this with a team of around 600 people in IT. It's around a little bit more than 400 developers that we have. So it's a really heavy product development organization. The flight business is a tough business. Flights it's almost a commodity product. People don't want to pay extra for a flight. You can get the same flight at different points of sales. You can buy it at an airline, you can buy it at another OTA. There's some tough competition in this. We believe that the way to win this competition is through our product. So we're really a technology company, a software company, that wants to win customers over the product that we're building. So it's completely essential for our success, and that's why we're also so investing so heavily. We're based in Barcelona, like I said. We do have a large center in Madrid as well. We do have developers in Alicante and Palma, and we're right now opening development centers in Milano and in Porto right now. So we're more in the south of Europe and trying to get talent in all these locations. Agile for us is really a journey that we've been on for a while. We are right now having 52 teams. All of our teams are working inside a pod. Pods are multidisciplinary teams, Agile teams. We have 8 Agile coaches that are looking after these teams. Actually, a lot of them are here, the ones in the blue shirt. So if you have any questions or want to challenge them on Agile, yes, you can heckle them later on this. And you do see Agile going beyond just pure product development or just pure coding piece. We're also incorporating data science and other aspects, marketing research, and things into our pods. And actually, there's pods creating spontaneously on the business side. People calling themselves a pod now because they want to work in an agile way, and the Agile coaches are also supporting that. So we see that not only on development but across the business happening. And we really want to take it into like a learning organization that's continuously improving as we go around. I don't think I have to tell you much about this because I guess that's what you do. So you're probably familiar with all of these concepts. Let me talk to you about how we get there, because when all of this started, it more looked like this. Anyone knows what it is? It's a nicer picture of a big ball of mud. A big ball of mud is a very technical term. It's a system that is really connected to everything at the same time. Now, if you want to change something, you're going to have to wear these gloves and go like really deep inside to change something, and everything you change is causing something else to fail. Yeah, it's like a connected mess. It's technically, you can call it a monolith, but I think the big ball of mud is the better picture of this. And you know, we had a monolith a while ago, and probably that's the feet of the person who's managing this. You're like completely stuck. You cannot move in a monolith. It's really difficult to move with this thing. So we were on a journey to really make that monolith more manageable. And just to explain why that is important for us and why excellence in making that is important for us, I brought a completely scientific graph here that is a bit complicated to explain, but it has two axes. This is the original graph, let me explain it. It has two axes. One axis on the left-hand side is the alignment. It's how well the things that you're doing is linked to what the business needs to achieve. And on the other axis is how well you do these things. What is your effectiveness in that? And the interesting thing is that most companies are really focused on the alignment piece. We run large sessions of portfolio processes, of discussions at management level of what should we work on, is this the right thing to do, and not so much on the effectiveness side of things. It turns out, and this is data from a survey that consulting firm did together with university, that companies who are really investing only in the alignment, which means only doing the right things, are actually underperforming in the market. And these are all metrics you can use to impress your financial guys in the company. But they show that you're spending more money and you're growing less rapidly if you're just focusing on the business side of things, of the achievements. What you need to focus on first is having an effective company and an effective mechanism for product development. Because if you don't do that first, you will never be able to afford it later. Because once you're stuck in the less effective side of things, you will not have the growth rates, you will not have the money to invest in an IT organization or a product development organization that's going to be lean and nimble. So the important thing is to shift the conversation into how to really break up this big ball of mud and turn it into like something that's more agile. It's more important to have that conversation first before you start discussing business strategy and the second thing. So I've brought a couple of learnings and advices from my life. Now, you know all the caveats around advices and about models and around not to copy and not everything is applicable. The stuff I'm going to share with you is applicable for our situation. I do believe there is some wisdom in it, but it's use your own judgment. Don't copy blindly. And the key to that is Conway. So who knows Conway's law? Yes. Okay. Half of the room. Conway's law is saying that the architecture of what you're producing as a system and the organization are actually linked to each other. So basically, every architecture is a replica of the organization, and vice versa. So if you have an organization that's very siloed, you're going to end up having an architecture that's going to be very siloed. Which means that you cannot just go in and say, okay, I want to change this big ball of mud, just so like a technical exercise. It means that you're going to have to look at architecture, organization, people and processes together. And it's really these three things that I want to talk about today. I don't believe that anyone any profession can tackle this alone. It's not an HR job. It's not a technical job. And it's not an agile job. You will not succeed if you're just doing it on an agile way or just on an HR way or just on a technical way. You're going to have to do it the three levers have to move at the same time. Otherwise, it will not work. So how do you move these three at the same time? What worked for us? The first thing is provide some super high-level guidance on where you're going. It's almost like having the 10 commandments written down, because you're going to be on a change process for people, and people need some vision and some guidance on where is this change process leading to. You don't want to spell out the change process in every tiny detail across all of the steps, because you cannot do that. You want to tackle it in a more agile way. But you're going to have, from the beginning, be able to give some guidance around this. So what we did on this is we created 7 principles, and we shared it with the teams that should really govern our thinking. And the 7 principles for us, it started with the customer at the center. And we said our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of product features that we're going to do. It went out to technical and operational excellence. We want to continuously attend our technical excellence and good design. And we added this, that operational excellence is achieved when each and every employee can see the results of the work and fix that flow when it breaks. It goes on with continuously delivering value, just spilling out that we want to continuously deliver small parts of value for our customers. We want to have a product thinking and not a project thinking in the organization. It means we develop our products based on data, experimentation, and fast feedback. I think there's a huge difference between a project approach, also in organizations, and a product approach. We want to go to the product thinking. We're saying that it's important to have happy and engaged employees that are really driving all of this. It's about global thinking as one team and the alignment to make it happen. And the last one is we want to create small business-oriented pods. Business means customer-oriented pods that can work relatively autonomously. And that means that there's a couple of things in this. That means that you're going to have end-to-end ownership inside the pod. You run it, you build it, or actually the other way around. You build it, you run it, and you own it. You not only own the development aspects of it, you own it that it works in the face of the customer. It also means autonomy, because we scaled up our development quite a bit. I think we went from, 20 teams to 52 teams. And if you don't create autonomy for the teams, that means that your cost of talking to each other is actually increasing logarithmically. So in the end, you might end up having actually less development throughput because everyone is talking to everyone. You're going to have to make it smaller and more manageable to digest. We defined these 7 principles 3 years ago, I think it's 3 years ago, to really align our thinking and tell everyone, hey, that's the direction we're going to move in. Give a high-level guidance so that people know what to expect in that journey. The second thing I want to talk about is one of the core beliefs, and I don't know if you know this person on the on your left side. Anyone knows who that person is? No, I told you. This is Machiavelli, and I'm using something out of Machiavellian playbook here. And the sense I like to use is put the pain where it belongs. So what does that mean? It means that if you have a system, an organization, where the pain is not at the right place, you will not see change. I give you an example. We had an organization where we had teams working on new features, and they would put these features live, and we had another team that would come in and do the maintenance. So what do you think this creates in terms of dynamics of creating well and quality software for these teams? None, huh? Because the pain about that damn thing not working was with the other team, that couldn't help it, that had to fix it. So you're going to have to create something that the pain is where it really belongs. Another example is processing a lot of files from other vendors, and sometimes these these like sales reports or accounting things. And sometimes these files are incorrect. The third parties are messing up the files. So we have a team that is constantly fixing these files, and they really, they're not very happy about it that it all fails. But the business unit who's actually interfacing with these partners is not feeling that pain. The pain is felt by the IT team and not by the business team. So you're going to have to change that. You're going to have to think about mechanisms of really transfer and switch the pain. Because only if the pain is felt, people will change. So it sounds a little bit evil, but well, maybe it is a little bit evil, but no, but I believe it's for a good cause. Because if you feel the pain, you will be motivated to do some changes around this. The third one is from moving from I shapes to T shapes. When we started this journey, we had a lot of people who came in and say, hey, I'm a software developer. Software developers don't test. Yeah, that's called tester. I develop. I don't care if it runs in production correctly, it works on my machine. So maybe that resonates. I see some people saying, yes, I've heard that. I think that mindset doesn't work for multiple reasons. We want to make the people more end-to-end accountable. I truly believe that people will be happier and more engaged if they own a process from end to end. If they're not just in a functional silo of their own profession. Some people need to be convinced of that. That's also because there is also like a comfort of being in your silo. And being in a silo is being, I'm just development, I'm an I. We are saying you want to be that you're a T, which means you're still deep in your profession, but you're adding the things that are to left and to right, or upstream and downstream of you, and you have an opinion, you have a knowledge about this, and you really think about this optimization across the entire flow, and not just it works for me. Because if it works for me, you're not getting anywhere in terms of scaling this up in an agile way. So we've been defining job profiles for our developers across the board, and we're putting more T-shaped features into these job profiles so that they actually do the testing, they look after it in production, they check if the metrics are there, if the feature is working in face of the customer, they work on the ideation piece. So all of these things, up and downstream, we want them to do as well, to make it more holistic for them, and to also engage them more in what they're doing. And the fourth one, there's a video, but actually you cannot see it on the PDF, that's true. This guy is falling off the treadmill. Originally, I called this, if it hurts, do it more often. But it sounds a bit controversial, so I put it a bit nicer, and I called it continuously increased frequency. And I want to make an example, not at eDreams, but at a previous company, what that means to me. In the previous company, I worked for this, actually Scout, it's a big internet company in Europe, based in Germany. Every release had to go through a database administrator. The database administrator wanted to personally look at every release and make sure all of the database is correct before it went out live. And that was a lot of work for them. It was like a manual process, and they took their time, and then they said okay or not okay, and went back and forth. We told them, okay, guys, that's great. You can do that. We're going to increase the frequency of releases to 5 releases a day. And the guy said, what the fuck? Sorry, I cannot look at 5 releases a day. It's way too painful for me. And we said, yeah. I said, okay, sorry, I don't care. That's your problem. And just by saying that, and by cranking up the frequency, we induced the need for change on their side. because they were completely focused on doing it manually before. And after 2, 3, 4 days, they came back and said, hey, maybe it's a better idea if we work on automation. That change was so much easier because we did that. Because if I went to them and told them, hey, let's work on automation, it's much more difficult to convince someone. But by just, putting the pain where it belongs and cranking up the pain lever, it actually worked very well. You might get the idea I'm a very nasty person after this talk. I don't see myself as that, but I do believe that increasing the frequency is important. And I do believe that by increasing the frequency, there will be a lot of things that are coming up that are working suboptimal that you can tackle afterwards. Let's put it a little bit nicer. Yeah, the fifth one, and the last one I want to share is moving from a functional organization to a domain-based organization. And this is something that we've been doing at eDreams, but it's something that I see across the organization, or across the industry. So functional organization is I'm development, I'm production, I'm architecture, I'm agile. Well, you know what a functional organization is, right? In a way siloed, but then you build some kind of process on top of it to make it work together. We're moving away from that, and we're moving the different departments together into what we call domains. And our domains are oriented towards the customer. So for example, we have a domain for selling flights, or we have a domain for hotels. And inside that domain, we have development functions, we have architecture, we have an Agile coach in the domain, we have QA people in the domain, and I really see that as a evolving into a small IT department of sorts, because we want to have, I want to delegate leadership to a level where it makes sense, where people are connected to the business, and the only way of doing that is to create a unit that has a purpose, has a mission, and there is a lot of communication and conversation going on inside that unit to actually make it happen. So that the actual functional leaders are the ones that are just looking after joint ways of working maybe, or enabling these domains. I like the chief enabling officer. That's I think how I see the IT leadership as well. But the actual management of the day-to-day activities can happen at the level of that business domain. So much closer towards the customer, much closer towards the people, and much closer to and with people who know what they're doing because they're really connected to it. Because there's a filter in the organization. The higher it gets up, it gets more complex. So I took a picture from the Berlin Wall and showing how that's. I think it's the same example of breaking down the barriers and really create a joint way of working on that. Yeah, these are the 5 things that I wanted to share with you. What it has done for us, and I took this, it's actually real data from us. In the last, it's basically 2 years, 1.5 years, we've been reducing our customer lead time from idea in to feature live by 70%, and we have increased the releases that we're running by 325% of doing that. And I truly believe that it is not the result of any single action, but it's really a combination of what you're doing across all of the 3 domains in terms of technology, people, and processes that kind of powers this kind of acceleration for the company. That's basically all I wanted to share. Can I answer you some questions on this? Yes, please. Okay, so the question was, when moving from I-shaped to T-shaped, what kind of initiatives did we do? And I think it kind of links back to what I've shown. I think it starts with spreading the awareness of what we want to achieve. So basically telling everyone, you're not just going to be a developer anymore. You're also going to test your own software, and you're going to make sure it runs in production. I think that's the first step. We also anchor this in our in our competency profiles for developers. We put them on trainings and support them with trainings. And then we also changed some roles. So for example, previously we had QA testers inside some of the teams. We didn't have 50 testers, but we had QA testers. And we worked with the QA testers to reshape the role and move it from doing the test into facilitating the test. And we actually had them work on this proposal. So it's a change that they have been driving. With many of the mechanisms that I've mentioned here, including the pain, the frequency, until the moment they could say, I cannot test anymore. So they got to the realization, hey, you're going to have to change. I'm going to have to get everyone else on board. Yeah, I think that's, generally that's how we do these things. So it's not so much like a top-down initiative. It's more about inducing the organization to change by itself, and then supporting that change and making it happen. Yes, please.
When you talk about the name, are you talking about name or value stream?
So we have the concept of a domain and we have the concept of a value stream for us.
Oh.
Yes, we have both, and let me explain why. A domain for me is, for us, is a persistent customer-facing piece of the delivery organization. So for example, we have a domain for selling flights, we have a domain for selling hotels. A value stream might be something that is across domains. So if we work on improving our mobile experience on mobile web, a mobile web user on that might book a flight and book a hotel. So that's in two different domains, but we want that to be coordinated, and that's where you use value streams for, to actually have that lightweight coordination. It's not really an org structure, but it's lightweight coordination across different domains. But in the end, the domain is owning customer-facing KPIs for that area. It's more. I think the value streams for us are more. How to say? They can be changing over time, whereas the domains you want to keep relatively stable. Yeah. Yeah.
So my thank you. Okay, so the question was related to principles, as eDreams is an organization of 500 people or more.
Yeah.
So how did you, as an organization, develop those principles that basically define you as an organization in the competitive landscape, and how you communicated, align all the teams? Because I think this is very interesting, how to get the buy-in from all the participants in the company. Thanks.
Yeah. So the principles I shared, and let me just put them up here again. They're the principles for the product development piece, so they're not for the entire organization. We develop them inside our inside the leadership team. Probably now, if I would do it, I would have more involvement, but at the time we were doing it inside the leadership team. In terms of putting the stake in the ground, saying that's where we want to take the organization to. It's kind of more when I joined, I wanted to give everyone clarity upon what I stand about, what I stand for, so that people are not in doubt or have questions of what should be my thinking. That's more how I used it. We didn't use a bottom-up process at that time. It was more like the leadership team doing it. And then we have been communicating this heavily, and we had the teams reflect. We had sessions about anyone disagreeing. Is there like major points that we need to change? And there is change that happens because of this and these principles. And we started then to incorporate them into our thinking, and many of the actions that we have been driving, we need to link back to principles in a way of communication.
Conscious that you are going in the right direction.
Yeah. So the question was how do how do you control that principles are really lived? And it's a good question. I really don't have a great answer for that. So we did not run a monthly test on do you know the principles or how well are you following them. We just incorporate them in the way we're thinking and communicating, but we did not do a test or any controlling aspect around this. I've been really heavily investing in sharing. We were running things like all hands processes. We just had one a couple of weeks back where we have all employees come in, so go through different the World Cafe or different stations where they can learn about topics. And this is actually changing right now. It's actually getting more bottom-up process. So we see that actually taking root and being incorporated more and more. But we don't have a formal principle adhesion report, so to say. Yeah.
You mentioned one of the principles is happiness and engagement. I was wondering if there's a way that you actually are implementing to measure that, or to make sure that you actually are going in the right direction, probably collaborating with HR or something like that?
Yes, a great question. I'm laughing because our head of HR is actually sitting in the first row here. Yeah, I think it's a great question. So we are actually right now looking at how can we best measure engagement. Everyone has a feeling around engagement. How does it feel? What's the vibe in the office? And sometimes people have different views around this. And we want to, we're like super data-driven company. We want to actually get a bit more data on this. So we, actually 2 years ago, I was asking a simple SurveyMonkey question. Would you recommend working at eDreams to a friend? Assuming that the friend is qualified to work there. And we've been doing that every year, but we're right now having a very active conversation around doing that much more frequently. There's different ways of doing it. There's different tools out there in the market that are really interesting. And I think we're just about to launch into something more iterative in that respect. Yes, there's one more question back there. The microphone is coming.
Thank you. How frequently people change of domain or teams or those kind of
Yes,
topics?
it's almost a religious question. That's very good. Because I think there's two different views on this. My personal opinion is I want teams to be stable. Because there's another school of thought saying, hey, let's put these project teams together so that they don't need anyone else. My personal view is I want the teams to be stable. And why? Because I believe ownership is the most important thing. I want them to own the consequence of decisions that they're taking now. Because if the teams are changing very frequently, and you have to take a decision, how much do I invest in quality, that's maybe I need it in a half a year, and how much do I just get this thing done now? You might be tempted to just go on the shortcut track. But I want to have that kind of thinking with the teams and really balance the short-term versus the mid-term and long-term consequences. And that requires to keep teams more stable in it. So yeah, we absolutely try to keep teams stable. There is a difficulty with that. So sometimes there's like maybe you lose a person and there is one back-end developer and now that person is gone. It creates problems for us. So we're also moving more into full stack thinking because of that. but we try to keep it more stable. I think in last question time, or how many minutes? We have 2 minutes left. So last question.
Hi. You've obviously been through a transformation, right? An agile transformation of sorts. My question is, what triggered you? What motivated you to actually go from monolith to domain-based company?
Yeah. Well, being in a monolithical situation makes some things easier and some things harder. For us, the biggest challenge was scale and time to market. So the most important thing we are optimizing the company for is time to market. Because in a digital world, it's not the biggest company that survives, it's the one that can react fastest to changing market. So if you want to optimize for time to market, a monolith is not the best kind of solution, because all the changes are cumbersome and slow, and because it can break so many things. On top of that, if you're on a monolith and you want to scale the monolith, and if you want to make the big ball of mud, show a picture again. If you want to make that big ball of mud bigger, that's also quite daunting, because it makes everything bigger and everything also slower. So there's, as bigger as it gets, the slower it gets as well. And since we wanted to accelerate development, it was clear that this picture is not our target picture or what we can live with. There was very clear motivation, but in the end it comes down to, let's cut down time to market or cut down customer lead time massively.
Sorry, was it more like a self-realization within the leadership group, or was it more like from the bottom up they were suggesting to move towards this approach, or both?
It's difficult for us to answer for that for me. So I think there's a clear business need to do that. Yeah, because in the flight industry, if you don't move, you're dead. So there's a clear business need, a clear top-down need. And I think there was also people in the organization that wanted to change, and driving this change in a bottom-up way. There were also other people who liked this kind of living inside the ball, but then you need to convince them how nice it is to live in smaller balls. That is for nice. So I think it's a mix of things.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone for your time. If you have any more questions, you can talk to me or any of the other surprise, right? Or any of the guys in the blue shirts if you want. Yeah, you can also contact me on that short link. Thank you very much.